Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to 999. This is right where we had left off. We'd left off mid-conversation. Clover had gone looking for Snake, and at this point everyone's a little bit mad that we're wasting time when we should be waiting for two people, but Junpei and I believe June, maybe a few others, ran off to find her, so that's what we're doing currently right now. In front of the stairs that led to B deck, they decided to split up. They quickly assigned search areas and went their separate ways. Soon, only two of them were left. Those two were Junpei and June, who had been a few steps behind the others. Alright, we should go too. Yes, let's go. But where should we start? Let's see. Uh-oh. Another decision time. Okay, so we are looking for those two, and we could look in the casino, the first class cabin, the hallway with all the rooms. I don't know, I would look in the hallway with all the rooms, because that's where we were looking before. Or we could go back to the large hospital room. Let's look in the hallway with all the rooms. We should go check out that hallway with all the rooms. Okay, let's go, Jumpy. They turned and ran down the hallway to their left. Ahead of them, farther down the hallway, they spotted Ace. Hey! Snake! Where are you? Answer me if you're there. Junpei paused. What did he want to do? I don't know what good we could do going to Ace. I guess two heads are better than one, or actually if June's with us that would be three, so we could expand our search of this local hallway. So let's run to Ace. With June in tow, Junpei jogged up to Ace. Hearing their footsteps, he turned to greet them. Ah, hello there. Snake is, well, that's obvious, isn't it? I assume you haven't found him yet either. Junpei nodded. I really wonder where he could have gone. Well, wherever he's disappeared to, we must find him as quickly as we can. For Clover's sake. Right. June's face looked kind of enraptured. By the way, do you think Clover and Snake are really siblings? Why would you say that? Why would you say that? The question seemed somehow odd to Junpei. Why? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? They don't look alike at all. Ace looked at him for a moment and then spoke. Yes, you know, now that you mention it, they don't. Now that you mention it. Still, there are a great many siblings who do not look like one another, which is very true. It certainly isn't rare. Junpei wasn't sure why, or even if he was seeing what he thought he was, but he could have sworn that Ace's face tightened as he spoke. At any rate, we must find Snake as soon as possible. The clock is ticking. We really can't afford to waste any time. Very well, let's get back to the search, shall we? You can leave this area to me. Alright. Let's go, Jumpy. At June's urging, they left. They found themselves back at the stairs, but Junpei's mind was in turmoil. There was so much to think about, but... no, it would have to be put aside for now. As Ace had said, finding Snake was their top priority. Junpei did his best to clear his mind. Alright, where should we go next? Are we just going to end up searching all of them? Okay, let's go to the casino. Let's take a look around the casino. Okay, let's go. They turned and headed towards B deck. Before they knew it, they were there. So was Lotus. She was leaning against the wall, examining her nails. Hey, what do you think you're doing? She glanced up at him, unimpressed. Isn't it obvious? I'm looking for Snake. I'm just not seeing it. Really? Maybe you need to look harder. Junpei didn't think that was the problem. Oh, by the way, I've got a proposal for you two. Care to hear it? I don't see why not. At the very least, if we don't like it, we can always refuse it later. What is it? Well, I don't like to beat around the bush, so I'll get right to it. Why don't we team up? Team up? Yeah. What, you need me to explain it to you? I'm saying, why don't we go through a numbered door? Even if we wanted to, that's impossible. Why? Jumpy's bracelet number is 5, mine is 6, and yours is 8. Our digital route would be 1. Which is true. But there's no number 1 door in the large hospital room. The only doors there are 3, 7, and 8. Then we add another person. Huh? Who? Wait, isn't that easy? 7. She was right. If they added 7, then math happens. And math makes 8. Then the 4 of them could go through the number 8 door. But... Whoa, hold on a sec. What about the other 4? Well, why don't you add them up? That was simple enough. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10 plus 1, yeah, 1. The digital root for those 4 would be 1. That's right. And you know the number 1 door isn't in the big hospital room, right? Of course I know that. No, are you saying that you'd leave them behind? Of course not. What kind of a woman do you think I am? Once we get off the ship, we could come back and rescue them, couldn't we? Then we wouldn't really be leaving them behind. Don't try to lie to us. I don't think you'd do anything of the sort. Really? Why do you think that? You remember, don't you? We have less than 5 hours left. Even if we manage to escape, there's no way we could come back and rescue them in less than 5 hours. Well, you never know unless you try. No. You're not thinking this through. Even if we brought 7 with us, we wouldn't be able to get off the ship. The 4 of us couldn't open door 9. Oh, yeah, I totally forgot about that. It is hidden, but an exit can be found. Seek a way out. Seek a door that carries a 9. Yeah, that's right. The digital root for S4 would be 8, so we'd have to add Ace to make 9. Right. Unless we bring Ace 2, we'll be stuck. Lotus scratched the back of her ear. Oh, Well, that's unfortunate. She didn't sound particularly bothered by what Junpei said. Nor did she seem particularly surprised. Well, let's try to find another way, okay? A way to get out of here with all 8 of us. That's impossible. Are you being serious? You do know that only 5 people, at most, can go through one of the numbered doors. Right? The number 9 isn't going to be an exception to that rule. Regardless, at least 3 people will get left behind. You're right, that is true. The moment he said it, Junpei felt a chill run down his spine. It was true. How Lotus could remain cavalier about so terrifying a prospect was beyond him. When they found the number 9, they would have to choose which 3 of them would die. Lotus's forehead furrowed. Do you think I could have a moment alone? There are some things I need to think about. I didn't even think about that. That with the way the rules are currently, I don't know if they could change possibly, but the way they are currently, there's no way for 8 of them to leave through a single door. Junpei and June turned and began walking away from Lotus. Back again, sorry, I had trouble saying the word talking to her had left them feeling ill. Junpei's heart felt heavy and his step sluggish. But he told himself pessimism would get them nowhere. So he forced himself to smile and turned to June. Let's just focus on finding Snake for now, okay? Yes, you're right. We can think about those other things later. Junpei nodded. Alright, where should we go next? Okay. We already went the hallway with all the rooms. Let's go to the first class cabin. Let's go take a look at the first class cabin. It's really close. They turned around and took off down the hallway to their left. Outside of the first-class cabin, they found Clover. She was standing in front of the wall. She was staring at a meaningless point on the wall, her eyes blank. What should Junpei do? Well, let's talk to her, because we're not a jerk and we don't leave kids alone. Are you alright? Or at least I think she's a kid. I guess she could be a little older. I don't know. He did his best to sound friendly, but Clover didn't respond. Look, I know you're really worried, but, He could think of no words to say that didn't sound hollow and fake. Junpei hesitated. Clover was so consumed by worry and fear that Junpei feared it would crush her. Her actions didn't surprise him. She'd suddenly lost her brother, who seemed to have been very close to. Lone. Her voice was thin and barely audible. Lone. Lone. I said leave me alone! Suddenly she was screaming. You're so annoying, just go away and leave me alone. Just looking at you guys is annoying me. Go away, okay? Just go somewhere else, stop bothering me. Junpei was taken aback. Such anger and hate. June's eyes had gone wide with surprise as well. Why are you still here? Didn't you hear me? Fine, forget it. If you aren't gonna leave, then I'll just... Alright. Let's go, June. Yeah. They turned and left Clover. Whole lot of good that did. As they did, Junpei glanced back over his shoulder to see Clover wiping tears from her face. Clover had driven home the misery of their situation, but Junpei told himself that getting depressed would get him nowhere but depressed. For Clover's sake, they had to find Snake, and fast. He did his best to push away the misery and depression, and forced a smile. So, where do you think we should go next? Well, we've been to all the other places, so let's go back to the hospital room and see if anything's changed. You know, because when no one was around, those Reds did get replaced, so I'm wondering if maybe the fact that we've all left could possibly get us somewhere else, or some of us have anyway. Let's head back to the large hospital room. Alright, that's probably the best idea. Together, they ran down the stairs. On their way to the large hospital room, June and Junpei noticed Santa standing next to the number 3 door. Junpei paused. What should Junpei do? Well, let's talk to him because we're sociable people and not jerks. Junpei and June walked up to Santa. What are you doing? What, you can't tell? I'm checking out the red. Why? Is there something bothering you? What? It's not bothering you? Huh? The guts of this red. Why would you wonder, or why wouldn't you wonder who the heck put it back in here? I was very curious about that myself. Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm curious too, but who do you think did it? Santa's eyes narrowed as he looked at June. She shook her head. I don't know. Well, what about you, Junpei? Who do you think fixed the thing for us? I mean, all of these are valid thoughts, but I would say... Because Snake is gone, so that's suspicious already. Lotus was the first one that came back and told us about it. Zero, of course, can do probably whatever the heck he wants. I'm assuming that one unmarked door in the room is what Zero might use to get around the ship. Possibly. I'm not sure. And someone other than the 8 of them could be as well, but I'm going to say Zero just for my personal thoughts. I think it was probably Zero. Why? Isn't that obvious? He's the guy who set this whole thing up. You don't think that would mean the opposite? Seems to me like that means he didn't do it. I mean, who do you think took that stuff out in the first place? Probably Zero. Yeah, exactly. Then why the heck would he put him back in after he'd taken him out himself? Maybe he wanted us to waste time. It just doesn't make sense. Why do all that work? Well, why do all the work of kidnapping people and putting them into a boat for a stupid game made of numbers? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So, what happened to them? Who put that stuff back in the Reds? Junpei furrowed his brow. So, in other words, one of us is the person who fixed the Red. Santa grinned. Bingo. We have a winner. But if that's true, then the person who did it doesn't want the rest of us to know they fixed the Red. Yeah. But why? No idea. Maybe if they come clean on that, it means we'd find out something else. Something bad. Something bad? Dunno. But whatever it is, it's gotta be worth hiding. Of course. It could have something to do with Snake's disappearance. You think maybe they did something to Snake? It's not out of the question. Junpei stared at Santa. There was something about him that made Junpei wary. Maybe it has something to do with that weird thing that Santa had with the four-leaf clover. I don't want to touch that thing. At first he assumed the other man wasn't terribly clever, but Junpei was beginning to think he would need to reevaluate that assessment. Is he talking about the ninth man? When Santa spoke again, his voice was quiet. Look, if you trust anyone in this game, you're gonna lose. You've got to be careful. The person you trust the most could turn out to be the one who stabs you in the back. With that depressing suggestion, he turned and quietly walked away. Junpei and June looked at one another and smiled awkwardly. Awkward. Where would they go next? Would there be any point in researching an area? Let's go back to the hallway with the rooms just to see if something changed. And if it doesn't, we'll go through the conversation quickly and finish. Let's go have a look at the hall with all the rooms. I'll go wherever you go. Let's go. They quickened their pace and headed for the bow. Just in case he found anything. I don't know if anything changes. There's no sign of anyone. Snake, of course, was nowhere to be found. They would have to look at somewhere else. But where? Let's try the casino then. Okay, let's go. And if no one's here, then I guess... Okay, so I think... well, let's select the first class cabin. It lets us select the hallway with all the rooms again, though. That's weird. Oh wait, are we not allowed to go back to the first class cabin because Clover asked us not to go there? Oh no. I'm a little confused by that, but let's check this really quick, and if there's nothing here, then we'll go back to the hospital room. And no one was here. Okay. So let's go back to the large hospital room. Well, there are people here, but let's finish searching, because we've searched everywhere. They looked everywhere they could think of, but Snake was nowhere to be found. So, I guess we're going to have to make the decision to leave him. I mean, if we can't find him, it's either all of us die or he dies. Because we can't find him, or if we waste our time and then we all die. Lotus looked around at 6 frustrated faces and spoke. We can't keep looking for Snake. Wherever he is, it's not here. We need to get moving. Junpei couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Snake seemed to have completely disappeared. Which is kind of suspicious. There's no point to wasting any more time. The others seemed to be having similar thoughts, but they stayed silent. Finally, 7 spoke. We don't got a choice. Lotus is right. We're not going to find Snake. There's a problem, though. We've got to figure out who's going to go through which door. Yes. I have a proposal. She walked back and forth across the floor, her heels clicking against the wood. Finally, she stopped. Why don't we decide on one person to sacrifice? What? Sacrifice? Well, perhaps that's a bit of a harsh word, but yes. You've all figured it out by now, haven't you? We can't all make it through those doors. If we split into 2 teams of 4 and 3 people respectively, then 3 people will be left behind. If we split into 2 teams of 5 people and 2 people respectively, then 2 people will be left behind. But if we split into 2 groups of 3 and leave 1 person out, then only 1 person will be left behind. Leaving behind 3 people with 2 teams of 4 and 3. I mean, is there any way around? Let's think, just back to the rules. You can only have between 3 and 5 people in each door. There are 7 people currently, I believe. Right? Yeah, there's 7 people currently. Well, couldn't you have 3 people go through one door and 4 go through another? I mean, if their digital routes work, of course. I'm not sure if that's correct. Genpei wasn't quite sure that was true. Wait a minute. 2 people get left behind if we split into 2 and 5. And 1 person is left behind if we split into 3 and 3 and 1. I got that part. You can't go through the numbered doors with any less than 3 people. But if we split into 4 and 3, then why do 3 people have to be left behind? Just run the numbers. Let's say we go through door 7 with 1, 4, 5, 6. Who's left over? That would be 3, 9, 8. And what's the digital route for that? So, add it all together. Exactly. But door 9 isn't here, right? That means 3, 7, 8 won't be going anywhere. That was just an example, of course. There are a lot of different combinations, but the results will always be the same. It doesn't matter which 4 it is. The 3 that are left over can't go through any of the doors. Go ahead and calculate if you have the time. You'll see. Anyway, that's how it is, and I was worried that that might also be a possibility, because it always is a possibility that even if you split into a correct number of groups, the digital route just won't work. Now, if we can get back to my proposal, we only have to sacrifice 1 person if we split into groups of 3 and 3 and 1. When 7 spoke, his voice was strained. Then, you're saying we gotta decide who's gonna stay behind? Yes, we do. Given our circumstances, it's logical and morally the best solution. If the other 6 that are survived, then 1 person has to sacrifice themselves. No, that's too cruel! What's so cruel about it? To just sacrifice someone like that. Then what's your plan? Maybe we should sacrifice 2 people instead of just 1. That's not what I meant. We shouldn't sacrifice anyone. I told you, that's impossible. Wake up. Whoa, whoa, calm down, you 2. Santa stepped between Lotus and June. Look, what Lotus is trying to say is that you should aim to bring the greatest amount of happiness to the greatest amount of people, right? Exactly. That's how democracy works. And for that reason, I think the only fair way to decide who will be sacrificed is through a vote. What do you think? No, that's terrible. I'm not asking you. Shut up. What about you, Santa? Me? Well, I agree, I guess. Alright, that's 1 vote for. Counting mine, that's 2. 7. I can't say I agree with you, but we don't exactly have a choice. If we don't do something, we're all gonna die. Glad to see you get it. If I can get 1 more vote, then it's decided. What about you, Clover? Clover had moved away from the group and was sitting on one of the beds. Her whole body drooped, and Junpei didn't know if she even heard Lotus's proposal. Lotus walked over to Clover and gently laid a hand on her shoulder. Your brother has to be behind one of the numbered doors. We searched everywhere, but we didn't find him. Now that's not correct. He cannot just only be behind one of the numbered doors. Couldn't he have theoretically gone backwards? Couldn't he be in the kitchen, maybe? because we unlocked the door. It doesn't mean necessarily relocked. He could be in the kitchen. He could be in the room behind that. He could be in a lot more places. Doesn't that mean he's have to have gone through one of them somehow? Clover slowly lifted her face. Let's go look for him together, okay? If we sacrifice one person, then we can go look for him. You agree with me, right? Clover nodded once. Hee. The motion carries. Well, that's not good. Lotus spun around and walked towards Junpei. Now, let's start a vote to... That won't be necessary. Ace had barely spoken for Lotus's entire speech, and everyone jumped a little. 6 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. He didn't seem to notice, or even care. I will stay. That should solve our problem, yes? Ace, what are you saying? No, you can't do that. That won't solve anything. June's voice shook, and she looked around desperately for someone to agree with her. Ace simply looked at her. June, I'm afraid you may have misunderstood me. I said I would stay, but I never said I would sacrifice myself. Huh? I trust you and each and every one of you. I believe you'll come back for me. Whoa. There's optimistic, and there's just nuts. Those doors only go one way. You go in, you don't come out. If we go through them, you won't be able to return, correct? Yeah. True, but that will not be the case once you've escaped from the ship. What? Please, I beg you, once you've escaped, come back and rescue me. Ideally, within the time limit Zero has given us. No, that's ridiculous. There's no way we could get back in time. Finally, Junpei could hold his tongue no longer. We've only got 5 hours left. We don't even know where the heck we are. How on earth are we going to find someone to come and rescue you? Then perhaps you would prefer to stay instead of me? Or perhaps you would be willing to leave June behind? Ace's voice was dignified, and without a hint of cruelty or malice. Junpei had no rebuttal. You see, there's no other choice. Then I see we've come to our conclusion. Go on. Don't worry yourselves about me. Go, quickly. Junpei stood frozen by indecision, unable to move. June bit her lips so hard that Junpei feared she would break the skin. Santa stood against a wall, calm and aloof. Seven tore his beanie from his head and turned it over anxiously in his hands. Only Clover stared at Ace, with an expression Junpei was unable to decipher. Lotus's attitude, however, was different from the others. She giggling, "Good. Let's accept his kind offer then." Lotus does not seem like a good person to me. She smiled, her eyes bright. Ace answered with a smile of his own. Good, I think this is the best for me. Perhaps I'll be able to take a nap. Perhaps it's my age, but I get so tired easily these days. As he spoke, Ace lowered himself down to the floor next to one of the beds. From somewhere deep in the ship, Junpei suddenly heard the screeching of metal on metal. It was almost as if the ship were screaming. Would it really hold until their time limit was up? Already, D-Deck was flooded. In the sudden silence, the only sound was the sad metal wall of the ship wail. Unsurprisingly, it was Lotus who spoke first. Well, what are you waiting for? We're wasting time. Why don't we hurry it up? As if a spell had been broken, the others all began to talk at once. You're right. We should get going. That's all we can do right now. 7. Seriously, honestly, I was getting kind of sick of listening to you guys talk. You too, Santa? I have to find my brother. Wait, all of you. Let's just calm down and think about this. There has to be a way to get everyone out. There has to be. Right, Jumpy? Say something. Yeah, let's think. There's gotta be another way. His words sounded hollow and fake. Fine. Forget about it. I'll figure it out on my own. She spun around and ran towards Ace. He had slumped down next to the bed when June grabbed his arm and pulled. Come on, Ace, please stand up. You can't give up yet. We just have to sit down together and think about this. We'll figure out a way that we can all get out of here. Then it happened. Did he die? Dang it, Ace. Ace fell forward. He slumped over onto the wooden floor, his body folded in half like a boxer out cold. Ace! June cried out and dropped to her knees beside him. She put her arm around his neck and did the best to lift him up. What happened, Ace? Say something. She shook him frantically. His eyes fluttered open. I'm alright. His voice was weak and slightly slurred. How are you fine? This... He held out his left arm and slowly opened his hand. In it was a syringe and a small vial. The vial was empty. It had only recently been emptied. A few drops clung to the sides. There was a label taped to the side of the container. It read, Soporal Beta. Soporal Beta? Junpei had no idea what it meant, or what kind of medicine it might be. Did you use this? Yes. It just... Anesthetic. I'll be fine. Anesthetic? I found it, earlier. While we were searching the hospital rooms. I thought it might be useful, later. I didn't think I'd be using it on myself. Why did you do this? Didn't I tell you? I'd like to take a nap. I really am very tired. Junpei knew that wasn't why he'd done it. Ace had injected himself with the anesthetic to forestall Junpei and June's attempt to bring him along. If he couldn't move, there was nothing they could do. He injected himself so that they would be forced to leave him behind. Man, that's kind of harsh. Ace. Is there something you want to say? I'd just like to sleep a little. Could you keep it down? No. Don't, Ace. Don't fall asleep. Ah, you feel warm. So comfortable. I think I'll have a nice dream. Ace's eyelids drooped further and further. Almost as though we were dying. Ace! Ace! She shook his shoulder again and again. But this time he didn't respond. Only the gentle rising and falling of his chest told him that he was alive. Junpei was relieved to see that he was, in fact, still breathing. He lifted Ace up off the floor and laid him on the bed he'd been leaning against. When Junpei turned around, Lotus gave him a look of pity. Well, we really don't have a choice now. We can't let his sacrifice go to waste. Right? She wasn't feeling any remorse, Junpei was sure of that. Still, he'd held no grounds upon which to oppose her. It felt wrong, but he had to agree. Then suddenly Santa spoke. Yeah, but we're not done choosing yet, are we? Huh? What do you mean? Well, we haven't decided on who's going in what door. Ah, yes, that's true. Well, enough of the screwing around. Let's decide. You first, Lotus. Which door do you want? I want door 8. It's the same number as my bracelet number. Got it. You're 8. You're next, 7. Which one do you want? I'll take 7. I can't get along with that old lady. What? What did you just say? Her face distorted by rage, Lotus took a step towards 7. He threw up his hands and made a face like a child caught in the hand of a cookie jar. Ugh. You're going to get it next time. She shot him a glare that would have melted steel, then turned and stalked off. Alright, who's next? Santa's gaze moved across the 3 people left. Finally, they stopped on Junpei. Junpei, which door do you want? At last. Junpei's mind was already made up. 3, 7, or 8. Well, this is a good time to stop, so we're going to stop here, and we will make this decision next time. So, and I don't think there's actually really any bias towards which one we should go in. Not that I can think of right off. I'm sure there probably is, based upon our decision, but I won't know until after I make the decision. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed 999 today. I'm Mr. 250, and I will see you next time for more adventures in this crazy ship of death and explosions and stuff. Thanks for watching. Bye!